and welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you're new here, my name is Annabeth and I typically talk about all the things that I'm knitting, whether it's hand knitting or machine knitting. And if you're a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back. Today I'm coming at you with a little bit of a specific video, so it's not one of my usual knitting updates or adventures with a sock machine or goal updates or anything like that. Today I'm going to be doing a focused video on my connection socks. So if you follow me over on Instagram, where I am annabethkntwrthy with underscores between the words, if you follow me over there, you may know that this little whip of mine has caused quite a stir. Since first posting about it on June 1st, so literally 20 days ago, as I'm recording this, my follower count has doubled, which was insane to me, and my first update for this project, where I put the charts and the socks side by side, has hit 1 million views, so that is absolutely wild to me. And with a lot of attention comes a lot of questions from people, and a lot of the same questions over and over again. So I thought today I would make a little bit of a video, just explaining what this project is, what I'm doing with it, all the little details that I can think of to give you, and then also I have a big old list of questions that I've been getting. Just gonna try and answer all of those and hope to give you all the information you may want, so that if people ask these questions again, I can just say, hey, I answered those already, check this out. It's really more creating a resource for me to direct people to, rather than like regular content, you know? Anyway, beside the point, let's talk about my connection socks. Also, if you can hear my fan buzzing, I'm sorry. I can't make it stop buzzing. I've tried. I just recorded an entire new knitting update with it off, and I felt like I was becoming like a steamed piece of broccoli in my room here, because it's really hot outside and becoming really hot inside, so the fan's staying on, guys. If it's buzzing and it's annoying you, I'm sorry, but I need it right now. Okay, back to the socks. Okay, so generic, I guess, details first. I am making these socks. The yarn that I am using, I have 5 different colors. So the gray that I will be using for cuffs, heels, and eventually toes when I get there, is, I believe, Beatrice from Mezzo Makes from the Shakespeare collection. So that's that one. All of these were minis that I just had in my stash. I didn't buy yarn specifically for this project. I just dug through my stash until I found colors that made me say, yep, okay, close enough. So the gray is from Mezzo Makes Shakespeare collection. The yellow was an unnamed yellow that I got in a mini set from Montana Crochet. The green is the colorway Tom from Sewrella Yarn's Downton Abbey collection. And then the blue and the purple are both from the Long Dog Yarn Villainous collection. The blue is Hades and the purple is Maleficent. So those are the colors. All of these were 20-gram minis when they started. It should be enough to get me through a pair of socks. And then all of them are different combinations of different blends of superwash merino wool and nylon for sock yarns. I think some of them are like a 75-25 blend, some of them are an 80-20 blend. Actually, the Montana Crochet one might be 100% superwash merino, but I figured if I used it in tandem with the other ones, and the fact that this one, I believe the soprano sock base from Mezzo Makes is 80-20, because this is being used for heels and toes, I'm not super worried about not having nylon in one of the minis. So they're a blend of, they're just from all over the place. They're a blend of dyers, they're a blend of yarn blends, they're just, yeah, they're just from my stash. There's not one specific yarn. I know some people who have been inspired by this project, they we're using, I think it's the Knit Picks Stroll. Is that the Knit Picks like brand sock yarn? I think that is one that I've seen some people start to use, and then others are just doing what I did, going through their stash, finding colors that make them stay close enough, and going on with starting their project. So yes, that is the yarn that I'm using. So now going into these actual socks. So the idea for these actually came from my friend Rachel, who is Into the Wools over on Instagram. She posts amazing projects and knitting memes, and you should definitely go follow her. And I think, yeah, she was the one who first originally posted, like, on her stories, like, what if I take my Connections results grid and turn them into Colorwork socks? And I said, that is genius. And then, like, a couple months went by, and suddenly it was June, and I was like, you know what, June 1st is tomorrow, I'm gonna start this project tomorrow. So that's what I did. So shout out to Rachel for the inspiration, the original idea. This was not conceptualized all the way up here. So how these work is, for my hand knit socks typically, so like if I'm just doing a straight vanilla sock, not really following a pattern, anybody else's pattern, I typically do a 64 stitch circumference on my socks. And that's great because if you play New York Times Connections, your results grid gives you 4 columns because, you know, you're making 4 groups of 4. And then each of those columns is either 4 rows, anywhere from 4 to 7 rows, depending on how many wrong guesses you make. So that's perfect because 64 is divided by 4, so then I was able to just use those results grids kind of like a Colorwork chart to tell me where to put what colors while I'm knitting, like you would with a Colorwork chart. So let me give you a bit of a visual aid. I really hope this shows up. I didn't think about this before. I hope this shows up well on camera. So like, for example, let me find a really good example one. Here we go, that's a good one. For example, this was my, I don't know if you can see that or not. This was my results grid. If it doesn't work, I'll just put a picture of the actual grid here. For Connections number 370. So how this works is I'm knitting these socks cuff down. So in order for my actual knitting to match the chart, I actually have to turn the chart upside down. So if you're a sock knitter like I am, you know that if it's a cuff down Colorwork pattern, typically the motif is upside down. So like in some of my other sock patterns, like my pumpkin picking socks and my moonrise socks and my beneath the waves socks, all of those charts in those patterns look like they're upside down when the chart is just written out on a page, and that's because you're knitting from the top down. So it has to be upside down in order for the chart to form correctly, for it to be right side up when the sock is done and you're actually wearing it. So if you want to make these socks, keep that in mind. If you want to do a cuff down sock, you have to turn your chart, your results chart, upside down. If you're doing a toe up sock, that's great. You don't have to turn your chart upside down, but you do have to knit from the bottom of the chart up. So either way, you're knitting from the bottom of the chart up, is just whether you turn it upside down or not. Really hope this is making sense at all. If not, sorry. Wasn't expecting these to get as big as they did. So let's see, where am I at in my notes? So yeah, there is no set pattern. The pattern is my Connections results grid. There's no pattern. I do 64 stitches for my socks, so that's what I did here. As long as the number of stitches you're knitting is divisible by 4, this will work for you. That's really all it is. In my notes, I literally wrote pattern ? No. So there's that. For the heel is something I can give you an exact response on. I did a short row heel. Specifically, I did the shadow wrapped short row heel. It's just my favorite kind of short row heel. There's no wrapping the stitches with it. You're actually creating double and triple stitches and then knitting those again for the short rows. A really great tutorial for this is actually from the Earth Tones girl here on YouTube. I would definitely recommend that tutorial if you want to try this heel out. It's super informative, like knit along style tutorial. It's how I first learned how to make this heel, and it's just really, really great. It's a really great explanation of this heel. But yeah, it's knit in the gray color, and it's just a short row heel. I decided to do, I think I continued until at the end of a day I was close to 5.5 inches for the leg, and then I did the heel and started the foot. And then of course I used my row counter and took note of how many rows I did for the leg for the second sock. So yes. So that being said, I took note of how many rows it took to get to that about 5.5 length for the leg. So that is for my second sock, because as people have been asking, I am not making perfectly matching socks. When I'm done with the first sock and I knit the toe, I'm just going to knit the cuff and then keep going with the next day's results on the second sock. So the second sock won't be, I won't be breaking for the heel, there's a chance I won't be breaking for the heel at the end of a day, because for the second sock, lengthwise, I will want it to match the first sock, so I will just have to just knit that many rows, rather than make sure I end at the end of a day's chart. I really hope this is all making sense. I think it will. So yeah, no to matching socks, no to a pattern. Heel is the shadow wrapped heel. I'm using my Connections Colorwork, or Connections results grid turned upside down for each of the Colorwork days. I talked about the yarn that I did already. Oh, needles! So the needles that I use for all of my hand knit socks are my US size 1 9-inch circulars. I also have some 9-inch circulars in sizes 1.5 and 2 if somebody else's pattern calls for that, but typically for my socks, my vanilla socks, and my patterns that I design, I'm using US ones. And I use 9-inch circulars throughout, even on the heel. I just keep all my stitches on the needles. And then once I get to the toes and I'm at a certain point and the toe decreases, then I'll switch to double pointed needles, still in that US 1 size. I really like 9-inch circulars. I think, especially for Colorwork socks, they help me keep a good tension all the way around so that my floats aren't too tight or too long during the Colorwork, so that it's not cinching up the sock. So that's the kind of needles that I use. A lot of people are asking how long this project will take. I have no idea. Like I said, I started it on the 1st of June mainly so I would have that really distinct point in the calendar to then see how long it takes me. But I really have no idea. I haven't done today's knitting yet, so for the 21st. So this is 20 days of Connections knitting. I have not missed a day yet. So we might be about just over halfway done with the foot. I don't have my sock ruler with me, but I think we're just over halfway done with the foot, so I don't think just the month of June will get me the right number of rows that I'll need. There's a chance it'll be June and July. That'll then help me complete this pair of socks, but we'll just have to see. I have absolutely no idea. If my camera does this really cool thing where it stops recording after anywhere from 10 to 13 minutes, so I have no idea where that cut me off. So let me just do a quick run through of what I've covered already. No, there is not a pattern. I'm just knitting socks with a 64 stitch circumference. The heel I'm doing is the shadow wrapped short row heel. You can find a really great tutorial from the Earth Tones girl here on YouTube. The puzzle that I'm using is the New York Times Connections puzzle. You can Google it and find it, or if you have the New York Times Games app like I do, and if you're a nerd like I am, it's in that app. I'm not making matching socks. I am just going to continue with daily connections results. Once I hit the second sock, there's no way it cut me off for the yarn, so the yarn should still be at the start of this video. Needles I'm using are US 1 9-inch circulars and then eventually double pointed needles for the end of the toe. I have no idea how long it will take me. And then, yeah, I think everything else I've covered. And I was talking about stranded colorwork. So I can understand why there would be a bit of a concern, because like if I get all 4 days just in a row, like yellow, green, blue, purple, perfect, then there's like no overlap going into the next round. So there is the potential of there being a gap at the start of the round. So what I'm doing is, I think it's a bit of an intarsia technique where like you take the next yarn that you're knitting with and you just kind of catch the yarn that you just finished knitting with, and they kind of twist around each other, and then that helps to prevent a gap. So let me see if I can show you, if I can kind of show you what I'm talking about. I want to turn these inside out without dropping any stitches. Okay, I don't know how well you can see this. I'll do a little zoom in here in a minute. But there's this column of like kind of twisted yarn going up the socks, and that's how I'm preventing a gap. It can mess with the tension at the start of your rows a little bit, but it'll even out. It might block out, and honestly I think a little bit of kind of wonky tension in one column of the sock is worth it to not have an absolutely insane number of ends to sew in. So here, let me show you a close-up of what this looks like. Okay, I think that's a little bit in better focus. So you can kind of see just going all the way up where my beginning of round is, there's just this twist of the 4 colors of yarn going around each other, and that's because whenever I start a new row, I catch the first, or I catch the previous row's yarn with the next one's yarn, and it just creates this twist going all the way up. And I don't think it'll be too bulky for the socks. And then you can kind of see here where I was talking about, like, there's so many different colors that the jog between rows isn't super obvious, but there is a little bit of wonky tension across a couple stitches, like just right here and going up. But like it's really not that noticeable, so I don't think it's that big of a deal. But yeah, that's how I'm avoiding gaps. So it's a combination of, you can see my stranded colorwork floats, and then that one kind of an intarsia knitting technique where you catch the yarn. So there you go. Let me go sit down again. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. You can Google like intarsia colorwork and stuff, and I'm sure there would be some better explanations and actual like examples and tutorials. These two got really twisted around each other. Okay, I'll deal with that later. There's actual like examples and tutorials of how to do color changes like that, but that's kind of what I'm doing. So to answer somebody's early question, no, I do not have a billion ends to sew in. I have 4 for the main colors at the start. I have 2 for each contrast, cuff, heel, and toe eventually, and then I'll have 4 for the main colors at the end. And it won't be that bad, hopefully, for sewing in ends. Okay, let's see. What other questions did I write down? Oh, what happens if I miss a day? I miss a day. Oh well. That week's update reel on Instagram will have 6 days instead of 7. I'm trying not to put a lot of stress on myself, especially since these blew up so much, and that response in of itself was pretty overwhelming for like a week or two. So yeah, I'm just not worrying about if I miss a day. If I miss a day, I miss a day. It's really fine. So yes. What else? Oh, a couple people have asked if I'm going to do a pair of socks based on Wordle results and strands results again, which kudos to that person, honestly, for mentioning strands. It's not even on the puzzle app yet. Like, that's still one that I have to complete in my browser, which is kind of funny. No, I will not be, well, probably not. I will not be making socks based off of Wordle or strands results. If you want to, go for it. Like, I mean, nothing's stopping you. You're a person with free will. But I'm not going to. The main reason I'm saying no, first of all, I don't know how I would make strands results socks, just because the results is always kind of different, because I don't know how I would do, like, oh, if I used a hint, if I got the spanogram first, like all of that. So strands I just can't really conceptualize as a sock, and then Wordle is a 5 by whatever chart, and 64 is not divisible by 5. Could I make them 65 stitch socks? Sure, but do I want to? Not really. And also, there's a very good chance that a lot more of those rows, if I were to make Wordle socks, would have 3 colors instead of just 2. So luckily, I'm most comfortable with 2-color Colorwork. Luckily, most of the rows, even the rows I mess up on, have been just 2 colors. Like, I'll have 3 of one category and 1 of another, that sort of thing. I've had a couple where I've had 3 colors, and that is just, it's not super hard to deal with, but it does take me a little bit longer to knit the 3-color rows, because I have to be like super mindful of tension, because normally I do 1 color in my left hand, 1 color in my right hand, and just go from there. And then if I have 3 colors that I'm working with on one row, I just have to be a little bit more careful in knitting that row, making sure that the tension is matching the rest of the knitting, all of that stuff. So all that to say, with Wordle, I would probably have a lot more rows that would have 3 colors instead of just 2, and I don't think at this point in my life I want to have a Colorwork project that is mostly 3-color rows. I 100% prefer 2-color rows all the time. So yeah, that's the long-winded explanation for why I will probably not be making Wordle or strands or like any other puzzle, New York Times puzzle inspired projects anytime soon, other than my connection socks. Alrighty, my friends, I feel like I have yapped enough about these connection socks. So in order to avoid repeating myself more than I probably already have over the course of this video, I'm just going to end it here. Hopefully I've answered all of your questions. If I haven't, let me know what other questions you have in the comments. I'll keep an eye out for them. If I get enough that I have to do a part 2 to these videos, I will, but I don't think I will have to. So yeah, super excited about this project, insanely overwhelmed by the response to them, and if you want updates on this project, I've been posting weekly updates on Saturdays over on Instagram, and then I've been trying to post them on shorts on here as well, so just keep an eye out for those, like I said, on Saturdays, and yeah. Excited to keep going on this journey, and I'm really excited with how these socks are turning out. I think they are absolutely gorgeous. Can't wait to finish them and wear them and just be a total puzzle nerd in them as well. So yeah, that being said, thank you so much for watching. I mentioned my Instagram already. It's annabethkntwrthy with underscores between the words. If you want to stay up to date on everything else, as well as my connection socks, you can follow me over there. You can subscribe to this channel, like this video, all of that stuff. But yes, I feel like I've talked enough about these socks and talked enough about my knitting today that I am just gonna say I hope your June is going well when you're nearing the end of it, and I hope you have a good rest of your day, and I will see you next time. Hopefully it won't be as long of a break as this past break was. But we'll see. Alright, I'll see you in the next one. Bye!